So Ryan Garcia fooled us all. What can I say? I mean, I fell for the bait. I thought the kid was losing his mind. I thought, man, Devin Haney is such a talented boxer, and to be unfocused going into a boxing match against him has got to be about the biggest mistake you can make on this stage.
Right.
Man, I am not too proud to say that Ryan Garcia goofed me. This was like totally staged and planned, and he had a game plan the entire time. He obviously was in the gym training because he looked fantastic in the ring.
Right.
What did you make of Ryan Garcia's performance? I want to talk about the performance itself, and then I want to talk about some of the black shadows in the refereeing, and obviously the one judge that scored at the draw, which is obviously ridiculous, and then kind of touch on the weight miss, being 3 pounds overweight, and was that sort of his inherent response to the Gervonta Davis rehydration clause, and he saw how that really limited his performance, so he was like, you know what, I'm just going to fork over the money to Devin Haney because I want to be the strongest version of myself. So want to get your take on those three things, but starting with just his performance in general.
Well, yeah, he's as smart as a fox, and he fooled me. He fooled the entire world, and if you were putting money on Ryan Garcia, you were basically writing a check that you knew you weren't going to be able to cash out on.
Right.
And look, Ryan Garcia, he delivered boxing the performance of the year. There is not a single fight that has happened in the world in boxing that was better as far as performance goes and victory goes than Ryan Garcia's against Devin Haney this past weekend. It was absolutely masterful. He proved everybody wrong. People always said because he was a good-looking kid and he's got a ton of following on social media, really knew how to garner attention for himself, that he's a celebrity boxer, or he's a YouTube boxer, or maybe
Instagram boxer.
Instagram boxer. Yeah, they were kind of try to throw snide remarks at him like that. And I'm like, guys, he's actually a very good fighter. And while there's certain people that are fighting him that are maybe at his level or even slightly above his level, he belongs in the cage or the ring with all of the best boxers in the world. And he proved that to us against Devin Haney, because I don't think anybody would bat an eye when you told them Devin Haney was the pound-for-pound #1 fighter, or at least top 3 or top 4 in the world at this moment. I mean, Devin looked like an unstoppable force going into that fight. And look, the plus 800, as far as the rope-a-doping the fans and everything like that, I think the odds makers had it right, because we didn't know. You're not seeing Ryan Garcia every day. He posted almost no footage of him training leading up to this fight. He was just going viral for things outside of the gym, and he wasn't really, focusing on what we thought most boxers should focus on when they're in a fight camp. He was out there talking about all sorts of things from Hollywood to things wrong with boxing, and then he's going viral, going on all these
talking about drinking every night.
Yeah, media tours, and I think he does love a drink every now and again. But look, you can't go 12 rounds in a professional boxing match and be out of shape. Like, if you go all 12 rounds and look relatively fresh in the championship rounds 10 through 12, you put the work in. You're putting the work in, and not only have you put the work in a body of work over a career, but I mean, you got to be firing on all cylinders for the last 10, 12 weeks of camp. So I don't think for a second he took his foot off the gas. He just made us all believe that he did take his foot off the gas. And look, he straight up beat Devin Haney up. He boxed his ears off. If Devin Haney would have landed any of the shots that Ryan Garcia put him down with, and then Ryan tried to get up like Devin Haney did, the referee that was in there, that is as corrupt as a referee as I've ever seen, would have 100% stopped the fight. Ryan Garcia could have been knocked down one time by one of those types of shots, and they would have called the whole fight. Instead, he gets like 6 knockdowns. They only credit him for 3 of them because Devin Haney's holding on to him and basically shooting double legs. I know we're an MMA channel here, and we don't usually see double legs get thrown.
That's not a usual tactic in boxing.
Right. We don't see a ton of that out of boxers. And Devin Haney, he's as buttoned up and professional of a boxer as you can get, but he was shooting for takedowns. He was looking for any way to not box with Ryan Garcia. So I think Ryan Garcia really did prove to us that while boxing is a corrupt and dirty sport, so dirty that they have to get the government involved, if you become undeniable and you put in the work and you really do beat somebody up like that, even though the fix is in against you and everybody is doubting you, the whole world thinks that you have no chance, and even the judges seem to not be on your side, and the referee seems to not be on your side, you can still prevail with a performance like that. I couldn't be more happy for Ryan Garcia, and I really can't be more excited for what he's going to do in the future. He's the face of boxing as far as the lighter weights go right now. Everybody's going to want a piece of Ryan Garcia, but be careful what you wish for, because you just might wind up on the canvas multiple times like Devin Haney.
Yeah, and All solid points. And I want to touch on a couple things that have been kind of the topics of discussion since the fight has come to a conclusion. And one is that I'm reading a lot on social media, people saying that this is not a legitimate win because Ryan came in 3 pounds too heavy.
It turned legitimate the second Devin Haney agreed to $500,000 per pound missed.
Well, that's just my point. So when you have a situation where you have a press conference and one fighter says, hey, you better not come in overweight. If you do, you're going to have to pay me. And they agree to a number of $500,000 per pound. They both stand up. They shake hands on it. That's a done deal as far as I'm concerned. That's Devin Haney conceding to his opponent and to the general public that, hey, I am so confident in what I'm able to do inside of that boxing ring that I don't care if he's overweight. And in an effort to prove that to you, we're going to shake hands in front of the entire world right now on the fact that I will still get in there as long as he pays me per pound that he's overweight. So as far as I'm concerned, that was an open and closed agreement, and that argument was taken off the table the moment that Devin Haney agreed to take the money and was paid the money from Ryan Garcia. So that's a non-factor at this point. If Devin Haney didn't want to take the fight, and look, some people will say, and they're very honest, and I don't disagree with them, we've seen that in MMA a lot, where they say, look, if he misses weight, I'm not getting in there. I'm not fighting him.
Right.
And okay, fair play. That's totally your prerogative.
Happens all the time.
They broke the rules and you agreed to not step in there, and that's your prerogative because you're abiding by the rules as far as you see them.
Right.
And that's the way that they're written. But when you agree on something outside of that, you shake hands to it and then you accept the cash, then it's a whole different situation. Right. So to me, this is a legit win. Ryan Garcia paid the fee for missing weight. Devin Haney stepped in there and he lost the fight, and credit to him for getting in there. But he was outboxed and he lost the fight. And I think it was truly the weight miss for Ryan was in response to, because only one person in the world knows how Ryan Garcia felt fighting dehydrated against Tank Davis.
Right.
And that is Ryan Garcia.
Yeah.
The
pictures surfaced and he looked like a skeleton.
Right. If you look at the pictures of him versus Tank and him versus Devin Haney, he looks like a shell of himself.
Right.
And obviously he's not going to be... Tank's one of the heaviest hitters in the game.
Right.
Forget about weight class. Tank puts people out cold.
Yeah, and he hit him with a body shot to put him out.
Yeah, he hit him with a body shot, and he just couldn't recover from it. You're talking about, either a liver or a spleen shot. I don't recall offhand exactly which side of the body that the shot landed on. But either way, when you're dehydrated, your organs can't absorb damage like that. Right. Your brain is, the liquid layer around your brain, the protective layer is thinner. You can't, the concussions affect you much more. You can't take shots like that, especially when you're fighting somebody like Tank Davis. Right. So I think Ryan was like, look, I'm going to make a huge bag for this fight. If I got to hand over $1.5 million just to feel like I'm fully 100% capable of what I'm able to do in that ring come fight night, then I think it was a calculated move by Ryan, and fair play to him and fair play to Devin for taking the cash and still accepting the fight. So that, to me, that excuse is off the table. The other thing I want to talk about is the judge that scored at 112-112.
Yeah.
Absurd card. Because just if you think of the 3 knockdowns alone, that should be 3 10-8 rounds because they all happen in different rounds. And I know Ryan had the point deduction, which makes one round a 9-8.
Right.
But essentially, if you win 3 rounds by more than 2 points, you're already essentially mathematically 6 rounds ahead of your opponent.
Right. Not to mention the first round took place. Devin Haney did not land one single strike, and Ryan Garcia landed a ton and actually almost put him on the canvas even in the first round.
Right. So if Ryan won the first round 10-9, he won one of the knockdown rounds 9-8, and then 2 of the other rounds 10-8.
Right.
That means that right there alone is half the fight.
Right.
That's 112-112.
Simple math at this point.
So you're saying that judge, so the rounds, I don't remember offhand the exact rounds Ryan got. The number
7, 8,
7, 10.
7, 8, and 10, I think.
7, 8, and 10, I believe. Could be wrong. And then the first round. So you're saying that Ryan Garcia didn't win any of those other rounds?
Yeah.
I mean, what fight were you watching? And this is where, and the referee as well, some of those counts seemed quite long for Devin Haney.
Right.
He got up on very shaky legs on that first knockdown. And I agree with you. If Ryan got up, wobbled like that with all the antics that went into this fight and people thinking his head was checked out, they would have called that
100%.
fight. They 100% would not have given Ryan Garcia the same grace and time to recover that they gave to Devin Haney,
Agreed.
which inherently is not fair because you have to treat both fighters like they're two unique individuals that you have no bias towards, that you're not carrying the backstories of whatever into the fight. It's just fighter A and fighter B.
Yeah.
Red corner, blue corner, and each of them are given the same opportunities and each of them are given the same limitations.
Right.
And when it feels like a referee is not doing that, it starts to feel very disingenuous. And even more than the referee, that judge, I just keep coming back to that judge that scored at 112.
Yeah.
Like, we as fans of combat sports need to stop accepting this. Oh, it's boxing. So, it's happening in so-and-so's hometown. So he's going to get the judges. Like, no, excuse me, Mr. Commentator. Why is that common practice? Why is that acceptable? Why are we sitting back and saying, yeah, this fight's happening in New York City and so-and-so's from New York City and he's the champion. So obviously he's going to get the bump from the judges. Yeah. That's not the way the boxing rule book is written. And if I'm wrong, somebody please correct me, because the way it's written is each round is scored 10-9 or better, depending on, if how much damage is done and if there's a knockdown, etc. And you add up the scores at the end of it, and it's a mathematical equation, and there's a winner and there's a loser or there's a draw. But there's no clause in the boxing rule set that says if the fight's happening in Atlanta and the fighter happens to be a Georgia fighter, that he gets an extra 2 points tacked on at the end of the fight. That's not the way this works.
Right.
And we as fans need to stop accepting it.
Right.
We as fans need to say, look, we demand to know the judge's name that scored that fight, 112.
Put him on a press conference after the fight.
Exactly. And then more than that, you know what? Next time there's a big fight rolling around, is Joe Schmo the judge judging it? Okay, cool. We as a collective community are not buying the fight.
Or at least not betting on it. Right?
We're not betting on it. We're not buying it. We're not going to engage with the content. And I know that's easier said than done, and it would cost missing some good fights. But I think that after enough, anything in life where you talk about where big change is made, there were some people that dug their foot in the ground and said, you know what? We believe in this sport. We love this sport. These fighters,
dedicate their
literally
lives.
Some of them give their lives. Like, we know people who have lost people boxing, Like, it's not fair for these judges to come out and say, this fight was this way. It's just a total screw job of a scorecard. And I think if we as a community say, we're not watching fights if this person's judging it, then they'll start to get the message and say, you know what, we better clean our act up because people are calling us out for being the corrupt sport that we are, and we can't do that anymore. It's not fair to the fans. It's not fair to the people that pay to be in the stands. And most importantly, it's not fair for the fighters who literally put their life on the line to entertain.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just enough is enough, and we have to call it a day with this corrupt judging and this corrupt refereeing.
Yeah, and like you said, it's simple math. So just because you're a judge and you get the nice title of a fight judge and you get to wear a suit and sit right next to the ring and watch the fights, I guess doesn't mean that you have to be prolific at kindergarten level math, because if you can't add up rounds, and there's only 12 of them, so it's not that difficult to get there, then maybe we need to lower our standards for what a judge for a boxing match actually is, because these guys look like they have no idea what they're doing. And me, I'm not a straight lace, but I like to live a life, kind of virtuous, and I understand the wrong and the right of life, and I don't want to be a part of this corrupt, nasty, rotten thing that's taking place. And then the only answer that people can give you is they shrug their shoulders and say, that's boxing.
Right.
Like, that's unacceptable. You can't have cheating going on and then just chalk it up to that's boxing. No, boxing is one of the most beautiful sports. It's the sweet science. If you actually understand boxing and you watch it for years and you become a fan, or even you have the opportunity to become a fighter and learn the hardest way possible to make a living, you understand that there's so much that goes into this. And just because one guy seems more marketable or came out second or is on the A side, those types of things are all absolutely ridiculous.
Code word for corruption is what that is.
It's 100% corruption. And look, Devin Haney was the A side. And I guarantee if there were no knockdowns that took place in that fight, and it was just a competitive match through and through, and it was kind of a toss-up, they would have given it to Devin Haney. Ryan Garcia made it undeniable to give him anything other than a unanimous decision victory, which is not what he got.
He didn't even get that.
Which is insane. I mean, you drop somebody like Devin Haney that many times. Devin Haney knew full well that he wasn't getting his hand raised in there. But the fix is so bad in boxing that after the fight ended, I was kind of concerned for Ryan Garcia. I'm like, I don't know, that one shot where they took the point away after his 10-8 round and it turned into a 9-8 round, that could have screwed him because these judges are so corrupt. The referee's so corrupt. He's given Devin Haney a standing 20 count. He's letting Devin Haney get every opportunity to hold. I'm pretty sure 10 minutes of the fight was held in the clinch and during a break for the referee to get inside. It was one of the ugliest fights Devin Haney's ever had. Like I said, he was shooting double legs, and no boxer's ever supposed to do that. And on top of that, every time Ryan Garcia found some momentum, Devin Haney would just grab onto him, and they never took a point away from Devin Haney for doing that. But every time that Ryan Garcia engaged in dirty boxing or engaged in some inside fighting, they would break it up immediately. They had their guy. They knew who they wanted to win this fight. It was Devin Haney. Unfortunately for them and the corrupt world of boxing that it is, they didn't get their way. But I do love the fact that Ryan Garcia came out there. He tricked every single one of them. He got his hand raised. And you know what? Let Ryan Garcia be the bad guy. It's very rare that you get a handsome, good-looking, likable heel. Ryan Garcia needs to be the bad guy. He needs to go guns a-blazing. Look, I'm the best-looking guy in boxing. I'm the best fighter. I got the most punching power in the entire division. Anybody who wants to test it, come on. And look, if he wants to miss weight, as soon as Devin Haney said he's down to take the fight, then all bets are off. Everything goes back to normal. Okay, if 3 pounds isn't an issue for you and you're good with the $1.5 million, fight's on the same way. We're both going to be about 160 pounds when we get back in the ring the next day. So it's kind of a wash. And at the end of the day, Ryan Garcia deserved to get a belt. I know the weight cut was his fault, and the reason he's not the belt holder right now and the belt is currently vacant is because he missed the weight. But I love that he decided to do that. I don't think for a second that if he would have gone in there with a full 140 cut and then brought himself back in, that he would have had the same power that he had. And for that same reason, I think it was the most calculated move he possibly could have made amongst an entire fight camp. And basically the entire 2024 has been a full setup for Ryan Garcia to get his hand raised in this fight. And he played everybody like a fiddle. And I'm so glad to see the corrupt world of boxing get flipped up on their head. And even though they didn't get to give him the belt, and I'm sure they're happy they didn't have to give him a belt for that performance, they're going to have to do it at some point, because I have a feeling Ryan Garcia is at 140 and potentially 147. He's here to stay, and he's going to be a thorn in a lot of people's sides for a long time. But I would not, if I was Ryan Garcia, try to go be the lovable, handsome, doll-faced, baby-faced guy. I would go full heel, say, look, I'm coming in. I'm going to do antics like this until I retire. I'm coming out all of these guys. I'm going to throw all of them out of their game mentally, and then everybody's going to want to get in a fight with him. But be careful what you wish for, because Ryan Garcia might have something up his sleeve. And as we realized against Devin Haney, the power is most definitely real.
Yeah, and just one slight correction. I read this morning the WBC did determine that Devin Haney's going to retain his belt. So it's no longer vacant.
So even more corruption to add to the entire thing, right? And the commentators, right? They don't even know. They're like, well, it's a vacant title. So I'm going off what the commentator says. But I guess I shouldn't listen to Tim Bradley and Clarissa Shields or whoever it is that's calling these fights, especially because right after the fight, they're like, oh, I'd love to see them do a rematch. But I know for a fact, if they do a rematch, there's no way it goes this same way. I think Devin Haney still gets his hand raised. I'm like, what do you see out of Devin Haney in this last performance, given an additional 6 months to train for Ryan Garcia? What did you see out of that would make it a more competitive fight? Because I don't see anything. Devin Haney is a buttoned-up, disciplined fighter with a game plan, and he's got his style. He's very good at it. He's been training for about 20 years to fight like that. He's very good at what he does. But you're not going to change the fighter that Devin Haney is in 6 months' time, and I don't think the gap between him and Ryan Garcia is enough for him to close in 6 months' time. I think Ryan Garcia has his number. I think Devin Haney will come in even more timid than he was after he got rocked in the first round against Ryan Garcia, and it'll be an even worse beating in favor of Ryan Garcia when they do the rematch.
Well, we burned the ref and the judging down. We might as well hit the commentators as well.
Oh, yeah.
So what do you think the commentators would have said had Ryan Garcia been knocked all over that ring for 36 minutes and been knocked down a handful of times? Do you think Tim Bradley would have said, I think if they were to do a rematch, it would be totally different. I think King Ryan Garcia would easily get his hand raised.
Not a chance.
So biased out of the commentary,
right.
And that's not what we want. We love, listen, I like Devin Haney. I like Ryan Garcia.
Right.
I want to see both of them do well. Like, I think both of these guys do it. I want to see Tank do well.
Right.
I want to see Teofimo have a resurgence. Like, I don't need to pick a favorite fighter. I just want to see my commentators, my refs, and my judges be non-biased. I mean, is that really too much to ask
Right,
for?
yeah, like when we go and watch fights, we love to watch them at home because we can listen to the commentary. And usually we're watching UFCs, and it's pretty non-biased. They're pretty good at playing right down the middle of the field. Boxing is so bad. I'm like, sometimes I wish I'm at Dave and Buster's, and so they can put Pitbull on the radio and blast it as long as possible just to shut Tim Bradley and the commentator du jour up, so we don't have to listen to this non-biased stuff. Because literally, as the rounds are going down and dwindling down for Devin Haney to make his comeback, and Ryan Garcia is just winning round after round after round, they're like, oh, well, that was a pretty good round for Devin Haney. I do think that Devin Haney probably won that round. I'm like, he got sat down. Like, do you really think that there's any sort of debate? This is not up for debate. It's the most corrupt sport in the world. It's so bad that they had to get the government involved. But it's also one of the most beautiful sports in the world, and it's something that everybody should appreciate, but it shouldn't leave a bad taste in your mouth, and not because of the fighters who have risked it all, dedicated their whole life, missed time with their family and all that stuff. It's not because of those guys. Those guys are doing what they need to do. It's everything around it. The dirty rats that exist inside of boxing are what's going to continue to hurt the sport.
And I think that's a perfect place to leave it.